But nevertheless, let's get into like the first off the top. That's gonna be our Army of the Dead review. So obviously, like I said, I'll probably unbox one or two of these this Friday as well on stream. So if you're more interested in wanting to actually take a look at these figures closer up, come hang out with us on the stream Friday, and that'll happen there. Then I'll also have like the full reviews up at some point as well. But John, let's get your quick take here, since I've been rambling on about figures and everything for going on like 20 minutes now, it seems. Let's get your quick take here on Army of the Dead. What'd you like? What'd you dislike? What are your thoughts?
I liked it. Now, to be fair, I had spoken with you. I watched it Friday night. You had already watched it by that point. We talked about it on stream, and you said you were kind of weren't so hot on it. And so I think my expectations were a little bit lowered. I was expecting it to maybe not be good. Um, and I didn't get you. You had mentioned you got bored with it. I didn't get bored. I mean, it wasn't anything like I remember when I saw Dawn of the Dead. It was like I don't know, it was like kind of like Zack Snyder had kind of reinvented the zombie franchise. A little bit. He had put his own spin on it. It was a lot more action packed than I remember. The zombies moved faster. It was a different zombie experience than I had been used to. So this didn't have that. This wasn't the kind of like reimagining or giving me anything very new. They tried to, I think, with the smart zombies, but that just it wasn't enough to make me go, oh yeah, this is like revolutionary. But it was a solid story. I mean, the acting was good. The jokes were funny. The action sets pieces were good. We talked about this too. Like the story could have been better. It could have been, there's some plot holes in it, but you and I spoke on Discord about this after I'd watched it, but the more and more I watch Zack Snyder movies, the more and more I think like he's a great director. He's phenomenal. Um, and I think visually he is one of the best directors working. I think one of his limitations that he has maybe, and it may be an editing issue, but one of the limitations he has is constructing stories that have good parts. He has good pieces, good elements. He has like good ideas like, oh, we're going to have this awesome action piece right here. And then later on we're going to have another I can't speak. Awesome action piece. But how do you connect those two? How does the story flow from one to the other? And that's where it kind of like leaves something to be desired sometimes. It sounds like I'm bashing the movie. I mean, I like the movie a lot. I enjoyed it. I didn't have any issues with it. So it's just, I always wish that maybe his stuff was a little more tight as far as the story goes. Not didn't leave it so open to questions about, well, why did this happen? How did this happen? So forth. And one of the things I pointed out with this movie was one of the things that it was in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, is one of Siegfried and Roy's tigers has been zombified. So you have a zombie tiger in the movie. Yet there's no other zombie animals in the movie. Like you would think that there would be at least some other zombie animals in the movie. If they're gonna have a zombie tiger, are you telling me the virus only affects tigers and humans? Like that's a weird combination to only affect. So it's just little things like that. That would be nice if he would at least touch upon or have a throwaway line about or something to just show that it wasn't just oh, what would be cool is a zombie tiger. Let's throw a zombie tiger in there, and no further thought was given to it. So but other than that, like I was shocked at how it ended, especially because it sounds like Netflix is trying to build a universe around this movie. There's an animated show in the works, and maybe a sequel or a prequel in the works for it. So, but yeah, it was fun. I liked it. I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I had someone. We made a video back when we learned that Christielia. I'm probably mispronouncing the name. But like I got called out on that very video for mispronouncing his name. I'm just reading it how it's spelled, man. Like, okay, that's all I'm saying. I don't.
The Ilya?
Yeah,
The,
I don't remember what it is. I don't really. I've seen him in a couple things, and I like the things I saw him in. Like his outstanding personal circumstances aside, like I don't care about that. Like, well, I care about it, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Like, if I mispronounce his name, I'm just reading it, man. I'm sorry, but someone commented on that video after the movie came out, and they mentioned they didn't even like notice any scene that like he was cut out from. You know what I mean? Like it was very seamlessly done. You know, that's so I was talking to the person about it. And I was just like, yeah, like now that I'm thinking about it, like they had Tig Notaro replace him. I don't know if like they made a new like I don't know if this character was actually supposed to be what Chris's character was, or if this was a new character created and put in place of what Chris was going to be doing in the movie. But she was like my favorite character in the movie. Like you kind of
It was
mentioned,
good.
she was great, and all the characters were good. All the actors were good. All
Yeah.
the performances were good. I liked all the characters were fine for the most part. Like I didn't really mind any of that. The dialogue was pretty much fine for the most part. Um, but yeah, like they did a really good job on just seamlessly blending this performance into the movie. Because at no point was I pulled out of the movie at all because I noticed like, oh, that's where they took Chris out. Like I can see like that never happened one single time. So they did a good job with that. The only other thing that I was like kind of like hampering on because like I said before, if you caught on my first kind of review or my first thoughts on it during the stream this past Friday, it probably sounded more negative than, like, I wanted it to by any means, because like, I didn't hate the movie, and I don't think it's a bad movie either. Like, I think it was there's the stuff in it that happened that I liked, like, and it was good, and I would like to see more of it. I definitely think it was a good 30 to 45 minutes too long. Like, it didn't need to be 2.5 hours long. There's easily a really good hour and a half movie in here somewhere. Like, I think if that runtime was brought down, I probably wouldn't have, like you said, I mentioned that, like, there were plenty of times where I was just kind of bored throughout it. And, like, you don't no that's the worst thing for any filmmaker to have is their audience be bored. You never want someone to be bored.
Yeah, you lose the audience, not keep them invested in the story. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, so and, like, it was through no fault of, like, the characters or, like, the general story I liked too, and I did like the direction they were trying to take, like, with the alphas, the zombies who could talk a little bit. I guess brief spoilers because we are talking a little bit about the story, but we won't mention any specifics. I guess we'll try to keep it at that. But like all the characters were fine, but I didn't like they didn't really execute the alpha thing too good. You know what I mean? Like it didn't. But honestly, a lot of it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, in all honesty, like, kinda like you said with, like, the
Well,
tiger, it's like there's one animal, like, that's weird, like
did we disclaim that? Did we say that this is going to be a spoiler-free review of it? Is that where we're going with this?
I said I'd try to be spoiler free, but if you wanna
Okay.
talk spoilers real quick, we can, and, like, I'll keep my hand up for the spoilers for anybody, when we're done with spoilers, my hand will go down. How about that? So, we're gonna get into
Um,
spoilers real quick.
yeah, yeah, spoilers incoming. So, fast forward about 10 minutes and see if we've gotten done. The whole the zombies having babies, and also the talk at the beginning, was the zombie an alien? Like, did he come from, because they certainly harped
Oh.
on the alien aspect of it from the very beginning because of where it was. They implied it was coming from like Area 54 and Area 51, sorry. And then the zombies had a baby, and the baby dies because the mother zombie dies. Um, but and then the baby came out blue. I'm not sure if the baby
Yeah,
just
I
came
don't
out
know.
blue
And then did you
because
notice
it
too
was
when they were shooting him in the head, they would blow up blue? So I assumed that was connected some way.
okay.
I don't know, but
Yes.
they didn't explain that. I don't know why.
Yeah, they didn't explore a lot of that. They didn't give any kind of back, which they did. You don't need to necessarily in a movie like this, but when you're trying to establish a new type of zombie, I think it helps to at least give some insight as to why they're that way. Because then
Mhm.
there were two different types of zombies too. There was the shamblers, who are the traditional zombies, but then there were these like hyped up zombies, um, which I didn't understand. And then like there was different stuff where like the zombies, like at the beginning, like when they first get into Las Vegas, they're like the zombies are just piled up on top of each other, and they're like, oh, but if it rains, they come back
Yeah,
to life. That was never touched upon again. It was never like it was such a
it's
weird
very weird.
throwaway thing. Like, why did you even bring that up? Why couldn't you have said that there was no food source and so now they're dead? Like there was
That's
things
weird.
about like that about the movie that were really strange. I fully expected there to be a scene later on where a storm blew into Vegas and the zombies were woken up by the rain. I'm not sure why rain wakes up zombies, but I fully expected that to happen. And when it never did, it makes that scene kind of odd. So that's what I meant by like his movies are they're really really great and so, good, and sometimes they're great and phenomenal. But I just wish that there was things like that were a little more tight that worked a little better.
He is a visual storyteller, 100% through and through. And you could put his movies on mute and be entertained. Like it's like a lot of people say, like Sucker Punch, for instance, is like the worst movie he's ever
Oh,
done.
it's terrible.
And I think definitively, out of everything he's made, you can't really argue that by any means. But if you put that movie on mute and just watch it, like it's visually exciting and visually entertaining. Like it's just the rest of the movie that sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, he completely wrote and directed Sucker Punch, and he completely wrote and directed this movie as well. So that kind of leans into more of what we're kind of both getting at with like his biggest problem is executing narrative and like maybe borderline even creating a cohesive narrative, considering he wrote this one and he wrote Sucker Punch. So, it kind of lies in there a little bit, like I would say, because like visually, it's great. The only thing I didn't like visually, and I mentioned this on the stream, and like we didn't really get to talk about it too much, and I even mentioned that I don't know if this would have stuck out to me as much if I didn't hear somebody else talk about
Are
this. But
are you done with spoilers? Just
no,
sorry, are
I
you
am
done
going to
with the
spoil
spoiler?
one thing here in a minute.
Okay. I just
So
didn't
yeah, I'm
because
going to
we're
keep it
kind of
up.
in generalities.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he did this thing with like a soft focal point, and I used Rik as an example here, and I'll do it again real quick. So I'll put my hand down because there's no spoilers for this right now. So you can be good on the spoilers for this moment. I'll put my hand back up because I have one more thing to say about spoilers here in a minute. But Rik, I'm gonna put the camera on you for a minute, and you see how the background is blurred on Rik right now. So his entire movie was shot with like this is a normal thing. Like having the background out of focus is normal. But throughout the entire movie, it was like this, like maxed out camera blur, and it would be and like if you can see right behind Rik's head, it's even blurring the chair, like, a little bit. There were so many scenes in the movie where, like, someone's arm would be out of focus, like, his mic arm
That's
right
stupid.
now would like, that shouldn't be, like, that drastically out of focus, and it's just like I said, I don't know if this would have even bothered me as much if I didn't watch, Stuckman's review, where that was pretty much his main negative thing that kinda he talked about as well. You can go watch his review if you want his opinion on it, but he mentioned that as like a problem to him, and I just couldn't stop noticing it. And I don't know if, like again, if it wasn't because of if if I only noticed it as much because I heard him mention it, or if it's something that like it didn't necessarily bother me, but it was like every scene had it. Like, every scene had these soft focal points, like, and it was just, like, some of the times it was, like, the background was very hard blurred, and, like, it would make sense if you were on a smaller budget. This is what I said on stream. If you were on a small budget, and this is a big movie as far as, like, CGI goes, because they have all of Las Vegas, like, in ruins. So it would make total sense to me if you wanna, like, save some money on some CGI landscaping, essentially, so you just blur out the background so you don't have to do like super high res textures on the in the foreground and stuff. That makes sense. Like, but it's a whole damn movie. Like when people were in a completely practical set sitting in a diner. Like there's one scene in particular where like I remember explicitly Dave Bautista's arm goes blurred out of focus when the camera's focused on him sitting at a table in a diner. And I'm just like, dude, that's a little bit too much, right? It
Yeah.
didn't ruin the movie or anything, because I still think the story itself is the problem. Visually, the movie's fine. I wouldn't have used as much of the blurred background stuff as he did. That's the only thing, because it's
I
just it
I
sticks
only
out.
I noticed it. I'm not sure if I noticed it again because I was told ahead of time or what. I did notice it a couple times. My issue with as far as that went was like the movie seemed very dark and not tonally dark, but just color wise it was dark. Like I actually stopped the movie at some point and put on something else to make sure one of my TV settings hadn't gotten screwed up because I had such a hard time like picking up some of the stuff that was going on in some of the scenes. I wanted to make sure that so it's a very dark colored movie. Palette
Mhm.
is dark in a lot of the scenes. Um, so that was, again, that was all. That's when I get to those types of things. For me, they were for me as far as they went for this. It was pretty nitpicky. I forgot about them. They came up once and I thought about it. I was like, oh well, and then I got right back into it.
Yeah, and for that didn't happen to me. Like, for whatever reason, so it's obviously that kind of thing is gonna be different for everybody's TV. Biggest
Yeah,
example I can have for that is, what it was in the final season of Game of Thrones, like, the Battle at Winterfell. Like, I couldn't see shit.
It was
And
so
no
yeah.
dark.
like, and it's and, like, they even came out and said, like, it was their bad because they did all the color correction, everything on, like, a very specific type of screen, and they didn't do anything to kind of more generalize the colors.
There's things that you literally just can't see in that.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it
it's
just
terrible.
it's
Yeah.
black.
I'd like to go back and watch it now on my new TV because I before I just had, like a 65-inch just generic Samsung 4K TV from, like, way back in the day. Like when the 4K stuff kind of first came out. And now I have like a 77-inch OLED with Dolby Vision and what have you. So like I know you were watching on your OLED probably too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird because mine I didn't have any problems with the darkness and everything, but like this TV is Dolby Vision and shit too. So maybe they color coded this for Dolby Vision, and that's why I didn't have any problems. I don't know if your TV is Dolby
Yeah.
Vision. Like I don't know,
I
but
don't remember.
that's a very niche
Probably not.
group of people
Yeah.
to, like, make a movie for, though, because like, not everybody has that kind of stuff built in their TV. So I'm gonna do my quick last spoiler thing, and it just has to do with, like, the characters and stuff, so if you don't hands up. So, the only thing is you kinda touched on this. Final warning for spoilers, it'll only be, like, 5 minutes. Um, they killed everybody. Like
Everybody.
everybody, and it's like, it's so weird because they do all these things to like, Dave Bautista had this scene with, like, the woman in the photo here who, like, they apparently had, like, a history and almost got together at some point, it seemed, and literally 3 seconds later, they killed her.
She's dead. Yeah.
So it's like that whole emotional moment meant nothing, and then it means even less when they killed Dave Bautista off. So it's like,
Yeah. Well,
all for nothing.
and with all the related stuff that they were supposed to be doing around this movie, like I was shocked. I was like, Wait a minute." I thought for sure Batista at least would make it out, and even when he
Yeah.
didn't make it out, there was one character
Yeah,
that
that
does
dude,
make it
he's my
out.
favorite character
The,
like, he was my actual favorite character. I love that guy.
yeah, the dude with the chainsaw, like
Mhm.
he actually makes it out, and you're like, okay, this is how they continue the story. You have your one character that makes it out, and then even he doesn't make it out because you find out at the very end that he's a freaking zombie. So
Yeah, he
like,
got bit and hadn't changed yet.
and that was the other thing too. Like, why didn't he change it? Batista changed like
Real
within
quick.
moments of getting bit. This guy, I mean, it was like a day, 2 days, maybe a week later before he
Yeah.
starts to change. So
He
it's
drove
very
out of
odd. Like
Vegas, got on
the
a
rules
plane,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It was weird.
yep.
Very weird. That's
He
the thing,
also
I'm
he also
wondering if,
survived. He survived a nuclear blast and
yeah,
was able
yeah.
to walk out of the radiation zone of it. So
Maybe that
there
slowed
was
it
stuff like
down.
that that
Maybe that
maybe
slowed the
it did.
change
There you
down.
go.
I don't know. But we
Yep.
shouldn't have to try to
Molecular
explain
changes.
this, like, because maybe too, like, it could always be like the Walking Dead thing is, like, you don't change until you die. Maybe Dave
Mhm.
Bautista was on the brink of death anyway after the helicopter crash. I don't know, though. They don't explain any of this. They don't explain the Alpha thing. They don't really explain
Yeah.
where they come from. There's a lot of things that aren't really explained, and not that it all needs to be. It's just a lot of the things that they touched upon never get. They could have just been left out of the movie because they never really go
Yeah.
back to it. Like the rainfall thing, they never go back to that. Didn't need to be there. So it's like they even had what's his name from Luke Cage pop up as a douchebag, which was a perfect role for him. What was his name? You remember him from Luke Cage?
Oh, the cop?
Yeah, the guy who was
Was it
yeah.
yeah, I don't remember his name from he's been in a ton of stuff and
Yeah.
I don't remember
I
who the
love that
actor is
guy.
though.
That was one of my
Yeah.
my wife loved his character in Luke Cage. I forget his name. He was like his little, he was like Cottonmouth's little side dude, then he ended up getting with, Cottonmouth's sister. I think it was his sister, right, at the end? I can't remember, but he was in it, and, like, they borderline didn't even need to have any of that stuff happen either. Like, I don't know, there was, like I said off the top, there was easily 45 minutes of this movie could have been cut out, and I think it would have made a much better movie. So, I don't know.
The actor's name is Theo Rossi,
Yeah, Theo Rossi. That's him.
and he was in Sons of Anarchy. That's where I remember him from the
Yeah,
most.
that
Which is
too.
a great scene.
I can't believe I can't remember his name from Luke Cage. It's gonna bother me. I think I'm done with spoilers. I don't really have anything else to say. So, but again, I would say it's worth the watch. I don't really necessarily think like I know this is in theaters. I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters. I don't know if you like zombie movies and like the movies, like going to the theater, then I would still recommend going to see it. But based on the overall quality and experience I had from it, I wouldn't say if you're hesitant about going back to the theater or hesitant in general about spending money on things you don't know that you're gonna like, I'd probably say just watch it on Netflix. In all honesty, you're not gonna really miss out on anything. Um, and I love the guy who played the Scorpion. I can't remember his name now. I'm really bad with names today. Apparently, I'm glad I'm not in like a trivia show right now. But the guy who played his head of security, I love that dude. He was in like the
Oh
sitcom I
yeah.
used to watch, and then he's popped up in things like here and there. He's really funny, and but I loved him. He was good. He ended up fighting the tiger essentially at some point, and that was good. But yeah,
Oh, fighting is a very loose
yeah,
way of saying that.
yeah, without spoilers, he just went and fought the tiger at some point. um, you can piece together how that went. So, but yeah, in the end, I thought it was okay. I think it was too long because there were points that like I did kind of get bored with it through no fault of really like no fault of the actors or the characters or anything like that. Because again, I really liked all the acting. I think everyone did a good job. I liked all the characters, like they were all good. There was even the guy who was like the social media guy. Like he was in a show that I watch on Netflix called Atypical. He has an affair with the main character. That's not a spoiler for that show or anything, but the show is really good on Netflix. You should go watch that. But he plays a part in that. That was the first time I ever got exposed to him, and I like him in that. He's good. So it's a really strong cast, and it's a shame because like I actually did I like the characters. So I don't want to get into spoilers or anything. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. So, but yeah,
Out of 10, 1 to 10, what would you give it?
I don't know. I don't like rating.
I'm
Everything's
I'm
so
put
subjective.
I know, but I mean, it's just an easy way to compare, I guess, is to drill it
I
down
would
and make
honestly
it
probably
easy.
give it I'd give it like a 5.5 just to be rated fresh because I don't think it's a dumpster
Yeah.
fire. Like so, I wouldn't want to make it
I'd
rotten.
give it like a 7 or a 7.5.
Yeah,
7 or 7.5 probably
yeah. Because
for me.
I
So,
don't like doing the ratings. I think I talked about this last week or at some point because we live in such a like it's either a 10 or it's a 0 to people. So if I say it's a 7, I'm gonna get a message like, "How did you hate the movie? How? It's great." And
yeah,
I was like, "I gave it a 7, man. Like that's
it's
good."
only a
Like,
few less than
yeah,
yeah,
like it
yeah,
doesn't mean I hated it. Like hating it would have been like a 1 or a
a 2.
0. Like less than 5 would be leaning towards it's bad. So like I'd
Yeah,
say it's on the scale of you need to be better than 50% to be fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I would give it a 5.5, maybe a 6.
yeah,
So, like, 'cause it's not a dumpster fire. I just think there's some
yep,
things that could have been tightened up with it. Script could have been better, length could have been cut down, and just some things explained better. Like, and then it would have been more enjoyable. Like, but so the question is though, guys, have you seen Army of the Dead? Have you if you've seen it, let us know what you thought about it. Because I'm curious to see because I've been seeing some mixed things. Like I've seen a lot of people think, kind of along the lines of, like me. Like, I think John and I, after talking about it here, are more on the same page with it. Because when I was talking about it on stream, it sounded like I hated it. I didn't hate it. It just it wasn't as good as it could have been. Because I feel like there's a lot of good stuff there. Because it wasn't really my expectations that made anything. Because I really didn't have it. The only expectations I really had was like he made Dawn of the Dead. Like his version of Dawn of the Dead, I really liked. So I just assumed it would be good. So, and I would say it was good. It just I feel like there's enough stuff in there that to where it could have been great. You know, so it's kind of disappointing to me on that level. But if you've seen Army of the Dead, let us know what you think down in the comment section below.